Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this meeting of Executive on Tuesday, the 2nd of December. I'm Councillor Claire Douglas, and I'm the leader of the Council and the chair of this committee, and Executive is one of the two main decision-making bodies of the Council. So going straight into the agenda, we have partial apologies from Councillor Lomas. She will be joining us imminently. She's on her way. So please, if you could note that and note when she comes into the meeting. Thank you. Second item is the minutes from the meeting. Oh, sorry, 1 minute. Oh, declarations of interest. Apologies. Let me go back a moment. Declarations of interest, item number 2. Can I see anybody who has a declaration of interest, please? Councillor Webb, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. On item 7, Public Space Protection Order covering Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and the Groves. I have a personal interest in that. I live in that area, but I've been advised that I don't need to remove myself or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Webb. Item number 3. Oh, apologies, Councillor Kilbane, go ahead. In that case, I should declare living in a PSPO area as well, but I didn't realise that could be a personal interest, and I will go with Councillor Webb's advice on the matter. Okay, thank you. But I don't think that you live in a PSPO area it's being considered today, which is the difference. Yeah, but thank you for that anyway. Item number 3 is the minutes from the 4th of November. Can I see those who are in favour of those minutes, please? So that's approved unanimously, and I'll sign those at the end of the meeting. Thank you, everybody. Item number 4 is public participation, and we have 3 speakers today, 2 of those who are in the room and 1 who is remote. So the first person on my list today is Ben French, who wants to speak to us about agenda item 7, which is the Public Space Protection Order covering Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and the Groves. Ben, please come to the table, and you need to press the button there. You've got the mic on, so you've got 3 minutes. Would you like me to give you 30-second warning?
Yes, please, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Ben French, York Green Party. I should also disclose that I work in homelessness locally as well. On behalf of the party, I welcome the decision to extend the PSPO, the Public Space Order, in the Groves, Clarence Street and Union Terrace. There are good existing conditions to be extended, banning the gatherings of 3 or more where there's antisocial behaviour, and also drinking where that's causing antisocial behaviour and intimidation. We hear from lots of residents regularly. Antisocial behaviour, crime, violent incidents are some of the most common things residents bring up with us. So it's important that actions are being taken and people are feeling reassured. However, it's the additional proposals, not just with the PSPO for the Groves, Clarence Street, but also for the city centre, that does bring concern, and we think additional work needs to be put in to make these a success. Proposals like banning loitering at public nuisance, again, very vague, banning begging, it causing any antisocial behaviour, annoyance, distress, or 24-hour removals, fully banning alcohol. There are some really concerning proposals here that need to do the work. If they're done wrongly, they won't make York any safer and will just be counterproductive in the long run. A couple of examples: if you have a group of teenagers sitting on a pavement, does that count as loitering or antisocial nuisance if someone finds it annoying? If someone is busking in the city centre and that causes someone nuisance? So there are a number of real examples here. As an executive, I think we all have to ask ourselves, are we a human rights city just for the nice branding or logo? Or do we want to do the hard work with these proposals to make them an effective reality and make sure that the words match up to the reality? There are serious threats to human rights legislation, I believe, without the work here. Banning alcohol could also be counterproductive. Many that have worked with alcoholics and addicts will know that there can be some real consequences if this isn't done properly. For me personally, I believe there needs to be as many safe spaces for alcohol or substance or medication consumption as possible that aren't out on the street, and these need to be provided. But with the additional proposals in addition to relation to the city centre, for more information, how will they work? Who are these proposals for very specifically? How do you distinguish between visitors to the city and those with a local connection? Which powers are aimed at who? What specific circumstances are involved? These can be too vague and open to abuse. Let me reiterate, residents want safer neighbourhoods, but what they also say to us almost just as much is that they want the homeless to be housed and that they want better addiction and treatment services. We need to see consultation with stakeholders across the board.
That's 3
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you for those comments, and they have been heard and will be considered when we get to item 7. Thank you for joining us today. Our next speaker is Flick Williams, who is speaking remotely. Flick, can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Thank you. Hello, hi. So Flick would like to offer questions to leader and executive members, and that is concerning. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this meeting of executive on Tuesday, 2nd December. I'm Councillor Claire Douglas. I'm the leader of the and the chair of this committee, and executive is one of the 2 main decision makers on the council. Okay, right. Back to plan A. Flick, can you hear me? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, all right. So you want to speak about sustainable travel corridor and the Rougier route and public sector equality duty. So you have 3 minutes, as you know, so please go ahead.
Leader and executive members, I am here today to share with you my forward plan. I'm not even going to take up 3 minutes of your time because I'm done trying to educate you about the public sector equality duty whilst you throw shade at me, including by asking, did I ever work? Clearly, there is no interest in learning from the expertise I amassed from over 30 years working in the disability and access industries, nor from my specific qualifications in the same. First, some history. You will recall, I'm sure, my legal action against this authority over the unlawful licensing of pavement cafes, settled out of court and the policy subsequently changed. You may have read in the press over the summer about my successful legal case against giant corporation Marks and Spencer, a case so many said I could never win. I've actually lost count of my successful cases, taken first under the Disability Discrimination Act 1995 and then the Equality Act 2010. And know this, I have a 100% success rate because I don't ever take cases where there is uncertainty about the law supporting my position. So regarding the sustainable travel corridor, the Rougier route, or whatever you are calling it this week for greater obfuscation, know this. The day you formally adopt this without exemption for blue badge holders and locally licensed hackney carriages and private hire vehicles through the bus gates is the day I shall commence legal proceedings against this authority once again. I am completely confident that I have the grounds, and the only thing that will stop me is death or total incapacitation. So the ball's in your court. Do you want to gamble and have to climb down later, or are you going to do the right thing by disabled people now and save us all a lot of time, energy and money? Because I'm here for it, and if you doubt that, you really have learned absolutely nothing. Something to think about, no doubt, as you pound the pavements to protect your one-member majority. I wish everyone a very happy International Day of Disabled People. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today, Flick, and I'm sure we'll hear from you again. So thank you for joining us. Next person is Councillor Joe Coles, who's in the room with us. Thank you, Joe. So it should be noted that in her council capacity, Joe is a councillor. but she is not joining us in that capacity today. So actually the title on the list that I've got in front of me should not be Councillor Jo Coles. It should be just Jo Coles, but you can introduce yourself in that respect. Would you like me to give you 30 seconds?
Yes, please.
Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I am, as you rightly pointed out, making this representation in my role as the Deputy Mayor for Police, Fire and Crime for the York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority. And I wanted to speak on the agenda item around the public space protection order, particularly the city centre one, which is being considered at item 8. I'd like to thank the work of the Community Safety Partnership and the officers and executive member for the work that they've put into this. Making the city welcoming and inclusive simultaneously is a challenge, and I welcome the approach that the council is taking to that. The report includes the number of antisocial behaviour incidents that took place in the first 7 months of this year, 573 incidents in the first 7 months of this year in the city centre, and that is the underlying reason why this PSPO, as it's known, is so important. I think that the important thing around this order that it's about partnership working. This isn't about one agency or another. It isn't about this being a panacea in and of itself and something that the police will use separate to the other powers that the police have, but it is part of the police having a tool in their box that will enable them to make our city centre more welcoming and to ensure that other agencies are getting the support that they need to support some of the most vulnerable people in our city centre. There have been significant changes in the neighbourhood policing teams, particularly in the city centre, and the neighbourhood policing team in York is also under new leadership. And I think that is partly why there has been a kind of wish from within North Yorkshire Police for us to have enhanced powers from this PSPO. And I'm pleased that the council is looking at how we can do that in the most inclusive way. We do already in York, as a result of the uplift in neighbourhood policing, now have an additional 12 police constables and 9 PCSOs in the city, which is a really welcome increase in policing to help us to support businesses and local residents as well as visitors in terms of making sure that they feel safe when they're here. I absolutely agree with the previous speaker around the need to balance the need for compassion with those who are struggling, with the need for residents and visitors and businesses to be able to also feel that they can work and operate in the city centre without fear of intimidation. But equally, we need to make sure that our homeless community, people suffering and needing help with substance misuse, are able to access the right referral pathways and support. But we also are able to support our business and visitor expectations of coming to a nice place to visit. I do welcome the additional consultation period that is going to be taking place, which I think is an opportunity to make sure that we get this right and that the police also get the support that they need. I just wanted to finally just ask one quick clarification question. If you were able to clarify when the new PSPO, if you pass it this evening, when those will be in place, as I know that the police are eager to follow up on that in terms of the Christmas season, which is obviously now underway.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll answer that when we come to it. Great. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us. And so that concludes the public participation section. The next item on our agenda is the forward plan. Can I see those in favour of approving the forward plan as it stands? That's unanimously approved. Thank you, everybody. And then item number 6 is the recommissioning of NHS health checks. And we have Peter Roderick here, Director of Public Health, with us. And I am dreadfully sorry, I've forgotten your name. And I haven't.
Phil Truby, Head of
Phil,
Health.
Of course. Sorry, Phil. Apologies. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. So who is going to start? Peter, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just very quickly kick off by saying from a public health point of view, cardiovascular disease, so diseases of the heart, are the biggest cause of early death and early disability for the York population. So this is, I think, a really important intervention that we're asking Executive to approve for procurement this evening. It's one of our most evidence-based pieces, and it's so widespread. If you look at some of the numbers in terms of the York population that we're proposing to reach, we're talking into the thousands and tens of thousands. So this is something that can be really impactful, we think, and a really great opportunity. We hope the paper will set out exactly how we intend to use this programme, and Phil's very quickly just going to summarise it before we move to recommendations.
Thanks, Peter. So as Peter said, the NHS Health Check programme is a national programme. It's devolved to local government under the Health and Social Care Act to commission or provide access to an NHS Health Check. We currently have a contract in place that runs until April 2026, which is provided by Nimbus Care. The current contract value is for £50,000 per year. As part of this process, we are looking to increase the contract value to £100,000 per year, which will enable us to reach more of our residents across the city. The programme does have some targeting criteria within there, so we are targeting particular population cohorts around areas of deprivation, people with specific long-term conditions that are impacting upon their health, such as obesity, alcohol misuse, low-level mental health conditions, and we're proposing to continue to include those alongside introducing targeting around people with neurodivergent conditions, so autism and ADHD. The programme has been successfully delivered via Nimbus Care, as I said. The health check in a nutshell is a very small sort of quick MOT of someone's metabolic and cardiovascular health around height, weight, blood pressure, blood sampling, etc. And we're proposing that we continue on the same basis, providing this through a commission provider, reaching into our most underserved communities, detecting those long-term health conditions that are likely to have far-reaching health implications, and ultimately, enable people to stay and work longer and live longer, healthier, happier lives.
Great, thank you very much, Phil. Peter?
Well, just finally to say, just in terms of the value, just to be really clear on the recommendations we're moving, we're asking for this to be £100,000 per year contract, but we are putting in facility for that to be slightly higher. And the difference is that there are actually a number of programmes the government are bringing forward, one of which is around good work and health, which actually may be able to add external funding into this, but we just need to make sure we include the facility for that in the procurement. So that's the reason for the difference between that 500 and 750. Just wanted to make that really clear. Thank you, Chair.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that, Peter. It's really helpful. Can I see those who'd like to speak on this item, please? Councillor Steels-Warshaw, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Phil, for looking at this for our plans to recommission the NHS Health Check services in York. Free service for everybody aged 40 to 74, and specifically to identify these cardiovascular problems. It's, as Peter said, it's still one of the leading causes of premature death in our city, and those in our deprived communities are twice as likely to die compared to those in the least deprived. And that is a real stark inequality, and why this is really, really important. The recommissioning ensures that we do our statutory duty, but more importantly, it does help us identify those undiagnosed conditions and prevent serious illness. These health checks are at the cornerstone of our prevention strategy, and we need to invest in these to protect people who are most at risk and make a real difference, reducing health inequalities and ultimately improving lives for thousands of people in York. Fully agree with the option to increase the contract value to enable more people in York to have this health check. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Steels-Warshaw. And I'd just like to assert that health inequalities is really important that we tackle that. It is a really, really stark statistic that there is a 10-year life disparity between our most affluent wards and our least affluent wards in York. And it is also one of our council plan commitments in the each principles of equalities, affordability, climate and health running through everything that we do. So I'm really pleased to see that the value of the contract in the initial stage has been doubled compared to what it has been previously, but then also looking for other funding sources to supplement that and raise it up to potentially the £750,000 mark would be fantastic, so that we can reach more people more quickly and get to work on these challenges that we know exist in our city. So that will benefit everybody. Thank you very much for that. And on that, we will move to the recommendations, which are on page 39 and page 40. And there are 3 of them that cover the procurement process and delegations in order to go into the procurement procedure and also to award the contract. So they're outlined there for everybody to see. Can I see those who agree with those recommendations, please? Right, so those are approved as outlined on page 39 and 40. And thank you for joining us this evening, and let's get on and procure that contract. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is item number 7, and that is Public Space Protection Order, or known as PSPO, covering Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and the Groves. So this evening we have Pauline Stutchfield and not Peter Roderick. Can you move? Paul Walton. Morrison, sorry, Paul. I knew that. I thought that wasn't your surname. Paul Morrison have joined us to speak about the PSPO. So, Pauline, you're going to start. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. If possible, could I introduce both reports, and then Paul will take you through each, and you can take each set of recommendations individually. Is that okay? Thank you. So the purpose of both reports is to give you the outcomes of consultations as approved by Councillor Pavlovich at his decision session on 2nd of September to renew and extend the public space protection orders, and I have to put my teeth in for that because I can't say them very well, covering Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and the Groves as one PSPO, and the city centre as the second PSPO. Before I start, can I just point out an error on the recommendations for the Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and Groves PSPO under recommendation A. The recommendation should read the reintroduction of the original PSPO as follows, and to delete within the city walls, because of course this is outside the city walls. Our intention now is on the basis of the consultation feedback, which includes feedback from ward councillors and others, that we feel that based on the consultation, we should only seek to extend at this stage the original PSPOs, and we feel that further and deeper consultation with clearer proposals, as our first speaker stated, are given with full human rights and equalities impact assessments undertaken to ensure that we have fully explored the impacts of the new proposals that have been put forward. And just to respond to the to Joe Cole's, we aim to have enhanced PSPOs if they are approved by executive. We'll need to bring them back ahead of the summer period. We will be designing the consultation in the new year. Any meaningful consultation should really take 12 weeks. And therefore we'd be seeking to come back to executive maybe in June, July next summer. Sorry, Councillor Pavlovich wants to, no, okay. So I think that's my summary contained, but over to Paul, who is our Community Safety Manager.
Hello, I'll just give a brief summary of the report. Any questions we want to ask, happy to answer them as best I can. Obviously, the purpose of the report is to determine whether to reintroduce the PSPO covering initially the Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and the Groves, and then we'll come on to the city centre subsequently. In terms of some of the issues that we have around the Union Terrace area, I think that particularly as it's so close to the city centre and the PSPO within the city centre, I think we kind of felt that without having a kind of a dual effect of the two PSPOs, there's likely to be displacement of ASB from people from the city centre going out to the particular Union Terrace car park, where we have historically had issues there with people sort of sitting around and antisocial behaviour coming from that. So that's what we try to do, to stop the displacement. In terms of kind of the recommendations, this is to reintroduce what was there previously and has worked quite successfully. It is around looking at trying to remove alcohol where it's associated with antisocial behaviour that's impacting on the quality of life for people in the area, and the ability to disperse large groups of 3 or more people who cause antisocial behaviour. I think that we have sort of talked around the detailed consultation that we did look previously, and we talked around that being potentially looking at removing 2 or more people, but at the moment that is to remain at 3, and that would be delegated authority down to the Director of Housing and Communities to be able to sign that PSPO off. I think within the area that we're talking about, there's been a citywide PSPO in place previously, and that's worked quite successfully. I think, as Joe Coles, the Deputy Mayor, said, that it allows the police to have an extra tool within their toolbox to be able to sort of tackle some of these issues, some of these problems. I think we have sort of looked at consultation around both from councillors and other people. We have sought views from local residents and that with regards to the PSPO, and the majority of people that came back did say that they were in support of this. I think that because it's quite a settled piece of legislation now, effectively, that there was less people that were interested within this. The numbers that replied were lower, but all those that did, 80% were in favour of keeping the same 2 tools within that there around being able to remove alcohol and being able to kind of remove 3 or more people from the area. We did get written comments, and those are contained in Annex B if people want to read those. So in terms of the recommendation, then it is, as I said, to approve the reintroduction of the PSPO within the area covered, which bans the consumption of alcohol and the ability to remove large groups of 3 or more people. And that's my talk in terms of the first one.
Thank you, Paul. Do you want to go straight on to the second one? Yeah, city centre. Thank you.
So in terms of the second report, that is a public safety protection order within the city walls. This subject of the report is to determine whether to introduce the PSPO within the city walls. The consultation has, from the previous report, there was further and more detailed consultation around wider sets of powers, but I think it's been recognised that at the moment that will be looked at in the next year. So we're just talking about continuing with things as they were previously. I think that the city centre is quite a unique layout in as much as it's quite a small area. There's quite a lot of different groups, different people using it for different purposes. So there are people, coming in to enjoy the hospitality, but you also get people that are residents that live in the area. You also get people that are street drinking within there. So there are different people using things for different purposes. In terms of the city centre, York has been trying to do lots of things around making sure that the city centre is safe. It's been awarded the purple flag status because in recognition of the fact that it's the evening and nighttime economy is safe and vibrant. And also the council has been looking at initiatives such as VOG, Violence Against Women and Girls, and the York Bid Choose Respect Not Regrets campaign, as well as the government's desire to create safer cities. So that's some of the reasons why we've been looking at reintroducing the PSPO. And the recommendation that's come through is in relation to decision to reintroduce the ban on drinking alcohol within the public area. But that ban is where it relates to alcohol, where there are problems. So if there is antisocial behaviour linked to it, so it doesn't stop people from going to things like the Christmas markets and having a glass of mulled wine and things like that. There is a recommendation around further detailed consultation around the ability to remove large groups and begging and no return for people that are asked to leave within 24 hours and loitering. And so that's some of the things that we'll be looking at in the next year. The PSPO so was in place since 2022, and prior to that, there have been things like a designated public place order, an alcohol exclusion zone. So the city centre is something that's for a long time the council's recognised need these kind of powers just to be able to sort of tackle some of the issues really. Again, it is a tool within that allows the police to sort of seize alcohol where it's associated with ASB, and it's not meant as an outright drinking ban as things stand currently. In terms of the consultation we've received, it was 77 responses with regards to this, and 81% of those responses said that they had experienced antisocial behaviour in the city centre in the last 12 months, and I think that people were, by and large, overwhelmingly in support of the fact that the council is looking at taking action to reduce the problems and the issues. Again, people were given the opportunity to put written comments in, and those are included in Annex B in this report. So really, that's it in terms of that.
Great, thank you very much. And I just wanted to ask the question that Joe Cole's put to us. Should we approve these PSPOs today? When can they be implemented?
I think these ones can be done fairly quickly because the area is the same, so the signage is already up for them all. So provided they can be signed off, we can be talking
As soon as possible.
Within a matter of days, I would say.
Okay, and as soon as they're signed, then they come into effect.
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So I'm sure we'll pass that info on to her as we see her. So can I see who'd like to speak on this then, please? Councillor Eyre, do you want to go ahead? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, addressing both papers together as well. In terms of that, so yeah, I think clearly it's right that we're taking action where antisocial behaviour is harming our city centre. It involves residents who don't often feel that they feel welcome in the city centre at certain periods, but also families, and making sure that the city centre is a welcoming place for families, and also for our visitor experience. Accepting visitors are sometimes one of the issues, but making sure that our city centre is a truly welcoming place. I think obviously residents and businesses in areas such as Union Terrace and Clarence Gardens, they do need some more support, and we welcome the steps that these proposals are making to make those spaces both safer and more welcoming. The only thing we would add on to this, of course, is antisocial behaviour is a concern across the city, not just within the city centre and some of the areas around our city centre. And we all hear directly, I think, from residents in our communities such as Westfield, Acomb and Haxby, everywhere else, about where antisocial behaviour is having a particularly negative effect. We welcome the action. It's often much easier in many ways to take action within the city centre. It's much more high profile and has a bigger impact and does impact across everybody. And it's great to see that we're actually being able to do that. But I suppose our questions are how we continue to roll that out and make sure we're having the same sort of impact across all of our communities. On a personal level, I sat and thought and reflected of the amount of times I had contact with the police and PCSOs when I was first elected to what I have now, and that has massively declined, not due to any particular people in this room, but over the course of things, it's massively declined. Our parish council now gets updates from the police from volunteers rather than actually from staff, where we used to have named police officers actually attending parish council meetings. So I think there has been a bit of a disconnect due to resource issues between the police and our local communities. And the one example I think I particularly wanted to flag is we keep being told, and I was speaking to Councillor Hollier, who'd met with police in Haxby, about the importance of CCTV and how CCTV can help the police and everyone in our communities. And it's not a resource that we actually have much capacity over. But in the past, we used to have things such as target hardening funding, which allowed local ward councillors to invest in things such as CCTV. That has slowly been eroded by successive administrations. I think we possibly need to look at how we are able to put something back as a council to each of our local wards to allow them to take steps within their own wards to help the police and help deal with antisocial behaviour across the whole city and not just in the city centre.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pavlovic.
Thank you. Obviously, huge thanks to the officers that have been involved in preparing this. And I'd like to include, although she's not here today, Jane Mowat, our very long-serving head of community safety in the City of York. I think she's running into a possibly third decade, who's imminently due to retire. And it would be remiss of me not to offer her thanks on behalf of successive administrations. She's made a huge difference, and we wish her very well for the future. With that prelude over, I'd also like to thank the ward councillors for their feedback. As has been outlined, this report came to my executive member decision session in September and went out for consultation. And it was thanks to the feedback from stakeholders, ward councillors and residents in those areas that we've decided to extend the consultation into the new year. However, that then left us with a situation in which the PSPO that had been running for many years in both the Groves, Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and in the city centre had lapsed and had expired in August. Public space protection orders can be a really valuable tool in helping to maintain community safety and the safety of residents, tourists and those who are using the city centre and these areas from antisocial behaviour. So to not have one in place at all would have left a really important tool in the arsenal or armoury of both council staff, York Bid and the police from being able to act. And the reason that it's important to be able to act has been outlined in the report. We hear from residents and indeed from tourists about that sometimes the city centre can feel an unsafe place, and from residents and users of Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and that live in the Groves, that antisocial behaviour does have an impact on quality of life. And 573 incidents this year of antisocial behaviour is just an indicator that when bad behaviour, and it's not necessarily just from those people that are living and resident in the city centre, but also from tourists and some of the more boisterous visitors that we have, that the ability to be able to disperse those when required, but also to confiscate alcohol where needed, is going to be incredibly helpful. So I hope that we can accept these two lots of recommendations, and I've dealt with them both together. Both sets of these recommendations get this in place so that the police and our own enforcement staff have something before Christmas that can be in place. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pavlovic. And yeah, it's very important that we get these in place as quickly as possible. And there is no doubt And so on that note, we will go to the recommendations on item number 7, which is the PSPO covering Union Terrace, Clarence Gardens and the Groves. Recommendations are on page 67 and 68 at paragraph 12. And not forgetting that paragraph 12A needs to be amended to read the reintroduction of the original PSPO as follows and delete within the city walls. So that is what we are considering, 12A, B and C. And the options are outlined on page 71 and 72 at paragraphs 29, 30 and 32. And we are considering option 1 as it outlines. So can I see those who are in favour of the recommendations as amended, please? Yeah, so those are approved. Thank you very much, everybody. And then for the item number 8, which is the Public Space Protection Order PSPO within the city walls. The recommendations for that are on page 95 and 96. And that is paragraph 13, A, B, that's quite a long B, and C. So please, can I see those who are in favour of, again, option 1 under that as outlined, please? Thank you. Those are approved as well unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you for that. And if we can get that in place as soon as possible, that would be very much appreciated by everybody, residents, visitors, councillors and the police and the Deputy Mayor too. Thank you very much. Right, item number 9 then on our agenda is the garden waste update. And we have Dave Atkinson and Ian Holt joining us at the table to introduce that to us. So who's going to start on this?
Evening, Chair. I'll do.
Dave, please go ahead. Can you turn round your name tag, Dave?
Sorry,
It's only one-sided. Yeah. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Evening, everyone. So just by way of introduction to this paper, to support our ambitions around reuse, recycling and to drive towards a circular economy, one of the measures we have in place is a garden waste subscription. The subject to the paper tonight is to look at what our increase for the next garden waste season would be, and the objective being to give the best service to residents, cover costs of the service, and bring ourselves in line with our partners in terms of disposal, North Yorkshire Council. I'll hand over to Ian to go through the detail.
Thank you, Chair. A little bit of background, I guess, around the scheme then. We've offered garden waste collection since 2005. In 2024, we introduced a charge for the collection of garden waste, which isn't a statutory service. It's been hugely successful in terms of sign-up. When we look nationally across other local authorities that charge, we're well over 60% in terms of sign-up of eligible customers. We've worked to expand the scheme out to those that weren't previously eligible. We've done that through a number of measures, either new builds, and we're actually being able to offer it to a small proportion of current existing infrastructure through our recent bags to bin scheme letters, where people have been able to fill in a survey online. We're promoting that further as well. We've got further new builds next year that we're hoping to be able to offer the scheme to. And teams are working hard to ensure that everybody, we can offer the scheme to as many people as possible, but maintaining, a good environmental impact by reducing miles travelled and making collections efficient and productive. So in the paper, we've outlined the proposal to increase the charge for the permit by recommending £3 increase. That brings us in line with, again, as Dave touched on, with North Yorkshire, who we share our disposal arrangements with across all our waste streams, and work to the same strategy, which is a shared strategy that we have together. Sorry, just in terms of sign up, going back to that, you know, we're well over 60% of over 40,000 people signed up, or residents signed up to the scheme. Just reiterating how hugely successful it has been.
Thank you very much, Ian. And can I just ask you how much of the service the charge actually covers, the cost of it? Thank you.
So in terms of collection at the curbside, so to cover resources for that in terms of vehicles, people, hauling it to our disposal site or waste transfer site, tipping off and returning, that's just a little over 2.1 million per year. In terms of revenue in through the sign up and the permits, I think it's just says in the report it's 1.97, I think, something like that. So there's about 175k deficit in terms of so the increase still, you know, it would offset, only offset the actual collection of the materials.
Thank you. And I understand there's a 50% reduction as well, isn't there, for people who claim council tax support?
So those residents in receipt of council tax support or SMI also receive a 50% reduction, as you've quite rightly said, which I think is around 7 or 8% of sign up of the subscription scheme.
Great, thank you very much. Can I see those who'd like to speak? Councillor Eyre, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And forgive me for having a little bit of deja vu. We had this exact proposal at the last meeting of executive. We sat around this table and pretended that proposal didn't exist. Then we had a very strange conversation at full council when the exec member denied that the decision was happening and didn't seem to know that the previous paper came in November the year before, or the reasons that it had come in November the year before, because that's what gives you the time to implement the proposals in time to start delivery in March. This is, of course, not the first time we've had strange delays to the rollout of green bin charging. The last time it happened was in July 2024. On that occasion, thousands of letters were shredded at cost to the taxpayer of significant funding for no apparent reason that we could ever understand. Obviously, on that particular occasion, that was just before there was a by-election in Hull Road that Labour were defending. I'm sure it's purely coincidental that this particular delay equally sits at a time when Labour are defending a by-election. In terms of the principles of the green bin charge, I think we've rehearsed this very clearly. What you have achieved is creating a two-tier service in this city, that those who can afford to receive a service get it, those who can least afford it do not receive that service. The lowest take-up of green bin collection is in Westfield, our most deprived ward. All across our most deprived wards, they have the lowest uptake of this. We have seen the impact of this. We have seen the increase in fly tipping, despite many, many denials. We're seeing waste stats going in completely the wrong direction, and we're seeing massive traffic issues at our waste disposal sites as a result of people doing what they were told to do, some of them, and taking them to those particular sites to dispose of them. That doesn't take into account, because we can't track the traffic implications in terms of environmental impact, the number of miles people have driven, and the effect on our particular air quality. You did mention the cost, and I was very interested to see for the first time that cost. I'd like to see some more, because I've seen the costs over the 23-24 period. As you said, a third of people are no longer having their waste collected. And yet we're seeing an increase in the cost from last year to this year of about £0.2 million. I wonder if prior to that there was a significant drop in the cost of collecting that waste, because it seems nonsensical that we're collecting two-thirds the amount of waste and the cost is continuing to increase. So I think those things do need to be looked at. You're being asked on the papers here today to vote for a 13% increase in this charge since it was introduced just over 15 months ago. 13% increase. A 30% decrease in the amount of work that's being undertaken, and a 13% increase in the charge. So I think in general, there is a recommendation, you are given a series of options. I strongly urge you to vote not to increase that charge by anything above the original price. If not, at least mitigate that in some ways, because the knock-on effects of that charge are being felt in our most deprived communities, in our areas, in the areas of fly tipping, in the waste disposal, and the massive implications are HMRCs.
Thank you, Councillor Eyre. I'm sure we've all been hugely enlightened by that diatribe and particularly political statement that you've just made there. And I think there's some factual inaccuracies slightly, and I don't know whether you feel anything needs to be corrected. You don't need to make any comment on the rest of it, but if you'd like to correct anything, I'm more than happy for you to. Thank you.
I think just to clarify a couple of things, I'll try and give a bit of background around collection models and how they've been and how we are now. So how the collection works is actually it's a mix between refuse and garden waste. I don't mean we mix the materials, but the same crews do them. So the routes haven't been updated in terms of that. What we needed to do is have a full year of garden waste collections to understand where we're at in terms of getting some consistency behind that. Part of the report back in January 2024, we said we would look at an introduction of or proposal of a charged garden waste service, bags to bins project, and then a route optimisation. We're sort of obviously 2/3 way through them projects. That's something that we do need to look at. You're right, there will be inefficiencies in there. In terms of the actual collections and the vehicles doing it though, it is the same vehicles, same crews that are doing them collections, albeit collecting less. What we don't fully know is, and we would never know, is of those 26,000 properties or residents that were eligible or are still eligible, is actually how much they presented in terms of waste. It's difficult to put, you know, if one else put more out than the other. So that's quite a difficult one. In terms of offering a service, we also offer home composting. We support that, and that's at the cost to us. There's no, you know, profit in that. That's cost neutral. And obviously you've touched on the HWRCs, which we've seen as had difficulties in terms of traffic at times. Which I don't believe is solely down to garden waste, but yeah, there is free alternatives out there to subscribing to the subscription.
Thank you, Ian. Very much appreciated. And also, I'm really looking forward to the budget in February to find out how Councillor A is going to find £2.1 million to get rid of this charge. That'll be very entertaining to see. Councillor Kent, would you like to go ahead? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ian and Dave, for the report and all the work that's been done on this and in bringing forward this very successful, really successful garden waste subscription scheme. The 60% take-up is very much at the high end of local authorities across the country. So there is a big demand for it, and it's precisely because there is a big demand for it that we needed to cover the costs of it. I don't understand the points that Councillor A was trying to make about delay. This decision has to be made now because we have to launch the garden waste subscription scheme in January, and we need to know what the price is that we put out to advertise it. So, and this has been discussed. I'm not really clear what the problem is, but in any event, the point made about this hurting our most deprived areas, I don't think anybody stands to be a councillor in order to put prices of things up. No one does that lightly, and things are considered in the round. I just want to make 2 points. One, it's easy to equate an area with low take-up and deprivation, but you might draw the wrong conclusion. So Guildhall is also an area of high deprivation, but it's an area with very few gardens, so the take-up is low. That doesn't mean that it's because it's too pricey and it's too difficult. There are lots of factors involved in this. And the take-up in Westfield is quite high, in fact. But anyway, as we've said, there are free alternatives, which is home composting, which is the best environmentally. There's subsidised compost bins. You can take it to the tip if you want to, and or you can subscribe. And this is an increase of £3 a year. We're talking 25 pence per collection. So you can make it sound bigger by putting a percentage, but what we're trying to do is balance keeping a valued service going, covering the costs, and also being fair across the city, because equitably across the city, a third of the households can't use this scheme or couldn't previously, or have no need for it because they have no garden. So in this way, we get to cover the cost of the service. And it's important to note that I've had residents on both sides talking to me. I haven't actually had that many telling me that this is too much. They might not want to use it, and some of them have turned to home composting. But I've had lots of people telling me that we should be covering the whole cost of the service, and what are we doing subsidising something which is an optional thing to do. And so what we're doing here by putting it up by £3 a year, and that's what this is really down to, is closing that gap, the 175,000, closing that, and with the rollout to further people who might want to use it, who haven't been able to previously, we hope in time we will cover the cost, which means we protect our core budget for other services. So
thank you very much, Councillor Kent. Yes, very much agreed. And Councillor Omas would like to speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I wasn't going to speak on this item until Councillor Eyre misrepresented things that happened at the last full council meeting, where he asked me a question about the date at which we made the decision last year around green waste charging. And off the top of my head, I couldn't quite remember all of the dates and agenda items of all of the executive meetings last year, because obviously we have a lot of business we get through. But I did, however, quickly Google on the council website and was able to provide the date in the meeting. So I was not unaware of when we'd made the decision. I just didn't know the exact date of the meeting. And I think also he misrepresented that I was unaware that this item was coming forward to executive, when in fact at that point in time, I believe it was already on the forward plan on the date of the last full council meeting. So everybody, the public, had knowledge of the fact that this was going to be coming to this meeting this evening. And I think it's a great shame that Councillor Eyre chose to misrepresent what happened. And anyone wanting to check the facts can, of course, do so by looking at what was on the forward plan and what date it went on the forward plan. And also watching the recording of the full council meeting, should they choose to do so. But there's no nonsense gone on here. We had put on the forward plan that a paper would come to this executive meeting to look at garden waste, and that's exactly what we've done.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lomas. And on that, then we will move to page 125, where the recommendations are at paragraph 11. And it says that the executive are recommended to note the content of the report and approve the increase by £3 a year to £52 as outlined, with continuing the 50% discount to those who are in receipt of council tax support. So can I see those who are in favour of those recommendations? Thank you. So that is approved. Thank you very much. Right, so thank you, Ian and Dave, for joining us this evening and providing accurate information that I hope everybody has taken on board. Thank you. And then item number 10 is urgent business, and I've not been notified of any, so that brings our business this evening and the meeting to a close. And I thank you, everybody, for joining us. Goodbye.